Hey everyone, it's Pfankuch again. Last week we were talking about how we can use ×5 to count things that we might see around our everyday lives. So we talked about how you might see a nickel, which is worth 5 cents. Tally marks, where each tally total has 5 marks in it. Maybe you have 5 fingers, maybe you have 5 toes. We can use 5s to help us with that. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about telling time and how ×5 can help us with that. So let's take a look at our first one. When we talk about telling time, we'll usually see 2 or 3 hands on the clock. We have 3 on this one. So our first hand is our short, wide one, and that tells us how many hours. If we look at them, there's up to 12 hours on this clock. So it might be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 o'clock. Those are our hours. The other one we're going to look at is our minutes. And our minutes are told by this longer skinny hand. Each minute is each of these little dashes in between. And the last one that we see on here is the seconds hand. Not all clocks have the second hand. We're not going to worry about that too much right now, but this one also counts by the little dashes in between. So when we think about telling time, we look first at our hours. And this one shows that there are 10 hours on the clock. Okay, now it gets a little bit trickier when we look at our long skinny hand, which tells us how many minutes. So to find out how many minutes are, we could count every single one of these. So our minutes start right at the top here, and 12 is the same as 0 minutes. This next little dot would be 1 minute, then 2, 3, 4, 5. We can keep going, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This clock is showing me that there are 10 minutes. So it's pretty easy when they're close. But what happens if our minutes hands are a little bit farther away? We don't always want to count all of those. So let's check out our hour hand first. Looking at this one, our hour hand is kind of in between the 1 and the 2. Whenever it's in between, we're saying that it's still 1 o'clock. It's not quite to the 2 yet, so it's still 1 o'clock. Now let's look at our minutes hand. A little bit longer. So if I wanted to, I could go and count every little dot. 0, 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. But that kind of took me a long time. So a faster way to think about it is by counting by 5s. So each little dot between the 12 and the 1, there's 5 minutes that pass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be 5 minutes. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If it's pointing to the 2, that would be 10 minutes. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. On the 3. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. On the 4. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So instead of counting every single dot every time, the faster way to do it is to remember that each time we get to a big number on the clock, that's 5 more minutes. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. The time is 1:25. Let's use that strategy to do our next one. Start with the hours. So our shorter hand is our hours, and that is pointing to, ooh, this is a tricky one. It's almost to 2 o'clock, but not yet. So on this one, it is still 1 o'clock. It would take me forever to count every single one of these going all the way around. So instead of doing that, let's count by 5s. Start with the 0 on top. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. By skip counting by fives, it helped me find a lot quicker that the minutes hand, our longer hand, is pointing to the 50. Kind of looks like a flower. Pretty cool. Alrighty. Another way we could think about that is by using multiplication. So you might be really good at your times fives already. And I know that my ones hand, my minute hand is pointing to the 10. I know that 5 times 10 is 50. So the time is 150. Let's get a little bit harder for the next one. Focusing first, let me find how many hours. Let's see, my shorthand is this one right here, and it is pointing almost to the 3, but not quite. It's still 2 o'clock. Now I'm ready to do my minutes hands. That one's my long, skinny one. Looking at this one, I'm going to start by skip counting by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. But it's not exactly to the 40. It's a little bit further. So 40, 41. It's just about 241. So we could use skip counting to get most of the way there and then use the little numbers after that to help us find the exact minute. So here's one we could play around with a little bit. We can see a little better. So right now, this one is showing 11 is the hours and 13 because it's not quite to the 15 yet. Let's move it a little bit and get a new time. All right. There we go. All right, so we have our hours, which are pointing to the 7 hours, and 5, 10, just past the 10 is 11, 7, 11. Let's try another one. All right, so this one looks like ours. Our shorter hand, or hours hand, is not quite to the 12, so it's still 11 o'clock. And our minutes hand is pointing to the 6. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 11:30. Let's do one more together. What happens if ours is all the way on top here? Now our shorthand is pointing to the 3 and our minute hand is pointing to the 12. Now that doesn't mean 12 minutes and it doesn't mean 60 minutes. When it's exactly to the 12, it is 3 o'clock. If I move it just a little bit, now I'm going to get to 3:06 because we went 5 and one more would be 6 or 7. So just to recap some of the things we've talked about so far. So we talked about how we can use 5 times 5 and skip counting to help us solve new problems. So one way we did that was learning how to skip count by 5s. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, and we can keep going on forever. We also talked about how 5 times 4 would be the same as 4 times 5, and I can use skip counting to help me with that. I'm going to count by 5s 4 times. 5, 10, 15, 20. 5 times 4 is 20. We talked about how a nickel is worth 5 cents. A $5 bill is worth $5, and we can use skip counting to help that. Each of our hands has 5 fingers. Each of our feet has 5 toes. We talked about how a tally mark has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each group. And we talked about how we can use 5s to help us tell time. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. All the way around. So I hope you guys learned some, and I miss seeing your faces at school. Take care. Bye.